What's up everyone, Tommy with Studio Sense here. Welcome to today's video. You know, there's nothing quite like the unique and sultry smell of fig. Fig for me kind of reminds me of summer and romance, or summer romance. It's sweet, it's tart, it's got elements of bitter and green in it. It's kind of a complex palette in terms of olfactive, the smell, the aroma of fig. It's not just this simplistic linear smell. The smell of fig is extremely distinctive. It's a bit like we are though. It's much better when paired. It goes especially well with musks, ambers, florals, and other fruits. So today I'm going to take you through 7 of my favorite fig fragrances. These are typically very affordable. It's kind of like a mix and match of niche as well as designer. As amazing as fig is, it's one of the most, I think, misunderstood kind of scent profiles out there. So it's sometimes hard to find designer fragrances that do well with the smell of fig. So after this brief intro, we're going to talk about the allure of the Mediterranean through fig fragrances. Got that and more coming your way, so stay tuned. Welcome back everyone. Glad that you could take some time out to check out today's video. We've got 7 fig fragrances that prove fig is not only soothing, refreshing, and calming, but also has this kind of mysterious, sexy allure to it too that is all Mediterranean. Now, if you happen to be watching from Greece right now, then you already know about fig, because if you're Greek or familiar with Greek cuisine, fig is one of those staples that you probably eat dried fig all year round. But to many people, fig is kind of this mysterious thing. So the following are 7 examples that prove the allure of fig, that it can be at once masculine and sexy, as well as soothing, calming, and refreshing. One of my favorite fig fragrances of all time really comes from one of my favorite houses. It's from the Acqua di Parma Blue Mediterraneo line. Mediterranean, of course, appropriate. It is Fico di Amalfi. What's so great about Acqua di Parma, if you're not familiar with them as a house, and they get as realistic, as close to the actual real thing as possible. And that's what I really enjoy about them. It's almost a form of hyper-realism in fragrance. So if you want a almost true to life, fresh, green, exotic, sultry kind of fig, Fico di Amalfi is your perfect answer to that, near perfect answer to that. And it's a unisex fragrance, so it's for men and women. Anyone can wear it. It's very similar that way to the very orange Arancia di Capri, the Calabrian Bergamoto, refreshing and juicy as well. This has a combination of not only fig nectar, but also fig tree, and it makes use of jasmine. There's pink pepper. There's, of course, in the open bergamot and mandarin orange as kind of a fruity, juicy introduction. You're going to probably think this is weird as I describe it. I'm going to set the bottle down so I can kind of tell you about it. Have you ever run hot water over your hands or your arm, and at a certain point it feels cold? I think that's called paradoxical cold, and I think it has something to do with kind of how the nerve receptors interpret the actual sensation. Well, something similar to that can happen olfactively. And sometimes when I smell fig, it reaches this point of saturation in this threshold where it turns into a tart, sweet peach. You know, it's almost like, have you ever torn a peach in half, taken out the pit, and bit into that now empty cavity? It's kind of like that smell taste sensation. If you ever experience it, you can't unexperience it. It's one of those things that as soon as it happens, it'll happen again and again. The smell of natural fig, then, to me at least, mimics the very heart of a peach at the apex of ripeness. And that's not a bad association at all. That's a really good association. And it should let you know kind of how complex fig can actually be at times, because it has so many components woven into its actual scent profile, as it were. So Acqua di Parma's Blue Mediterraneo Fico di Amalfi is one of the best natural, sweet, yet not super sweet, realistic. Fig can be a little bit of an understated aroma, so for it to last a long time, it has to be together with some really good quality components. Fico di Amalfi is an excellent example of that. The next fragrance that proves the allure of the Mediterranean, and in particular fig, is a fragrance. It's a designer fragrance from Salvatore Ferragamo back in, I think, 1999 was when it was originally launched. It is Salvatore Ferragamo Pour Homme. Pour Homme is a unique fragrance. It comes in the strange bendy shaped bottles, and it is a bit of an older fragrance. It's one of the most accessible fig fragrances out there, and it's quite a complex little scent for being a designer fragrance. It makes use of fig leaf, grapefruit, caraway, there's rosewood, there's African geranium, and this is all in the open. You've also got a bit of cyclamen and neroli in the open as well. It's blended so superbly well. Like when you smell this fragrance, it almost feels like, of course, you get the fig as your primary component, but there's also a bit of a texture there that reminds you of a very high quality suede or leather. There's some floral combinations there mixed in with some perfectly metered spices that just come across super masculine. And there's a bit of a, I don't want to say a bit because there's more than just a bit. There's quite a bit of a sexy vibe in Salvatore Ferragamo Pour Homme as well. I don't want to take that away from it because it's there and it is quite substantial, especially for a $30+ fragrance that was launched in 1999, and that's over 20 years ago. And that to me is the telltale sign of a classic. When you can smell it now and it smells sexy and relevant. It's got a very floral heart with carnation, jasmine, rose, and iris. Fig leaf is more of a green overall conceptual fig kind of fragrance or tonal quality that gives it like an evergreen feel. You also think of fresh starts, new beginnings, kind of like a spring idea that's embedded in the DNA, and that is also a bit sexy when you think of maybe like a brand new relationship or a brand new start. Super cool. Now, I know I'm putting a lot into an older fragrance, but I guarantee you when you try Salvatore Ferragamo Pour Homme, if you haven't already, you will want to buy it. Just like that. One of the great classics that happens to be a fig-oriented fragrance that I'm glad to have in my collection. The next accessible designer fig fragrance is one that makes me kind of sad because for whatever reason, Ferrari has discontinued their line of fragrances. Ferrari Noble Fig. Noble Fig is one of my favorite, easily accessible fig fragrances. Again, it takes fig and turns it into this very heady, very easily accessible, masculine, man's man, spray and go kind of fragrance. It weaves in this kind of fruity, evergreen kind of smell. It's so good. What I love about Noble Fig is it's something that you could see someone older wearing, and it's also something that you could see someone just, you know, getting started in their kind of fragrance experience. You know, maybe somebody 18 up kind of wearing. So in that way, fig has a very broad attraction and versatility. Noble Fig also makes use of fig leaf, pink pepper, and mandarin orange. It's got a clary sage and iris heart along with a base of musk and patchouli. The good news is Noble Fig is still available. I highly recommend while you can, because one day, sadly, it's not going to be available, or it won't be available at a really good rate. You'll have to pay eBay prices, and you don't want to have to pay eBay prices for this, even though it is a fantastic fragrance. Definitely check out Ferrari Noble Fig. The next fig fragrance is also a designer fragrance, and it proves that fig can be attractive on a much wider scale, a broad audience kind of scale. It is a Dolce & Gabbana fragrance. It is K Eau de Parfum. Now, I prefer the EDP version of K as opposed to the EDT version, simply because it's better performance and its primary focus is more on the blood orange and the fig milk. You know, the fig milk nectar and other spices that buoy up the entire fig profile. Now, this is a side of fig that is simplified for the purposes of a compliment getter. So this is going to be one of those that's going to get you compliments, especially in the office, simply because it is a very laundry fresh kind of laundry detergent. Have you ever been at a store and you looked at a new flavor of Gain? You know, Gain being a laundry detergent, and you're like, oh, whatever, but you smell it and you're like, whoa, Island Terrific, or whatever it's called, and it just smells so good. That's kind of what this reminds me of. A very strong, very attractive laundry detergent fresh fragrance that uses the note of fig to attract a larger audience. The next fig fragrance is another one that came out way back in the 90s. I think it was 1997. It is a Christian Dior favorite. It is Dune Pour Homme. I'm telling you guys, Dune is an amazing little fragrance for a designer fragrance. It's relatively inexpensive, that's still around. Again, similar to Salvatore Ferragamo Pour Homme, which was released just a couple years later, in that it is a timeless classic because of how well put together, how well blended it is. One thing you'll notice about classic fragrances is that there are more than one level to them. You know, on one hand, they're classic, fresh, clean, even soapy clean. But on the other hand, there's something intensely unique about them as well. And what makes Dune really unique is the whole kind of creamy, fig, green, musky. I think one person described it as like watching an old 8mm film. You know, it's got that whole film grain thing going on, or maybe it's stuttering a little bit, or maybe it's black and white, or maybe it's sepia. It's older, but there's something important about it that you can't quite put your finger on. Dune also has at times kind of this warm, watery texture to it as well that reminds me again of a rainy day, kind of darker, kind of gray. The heavier musks that are used in it, kind of weighted and dense, not necessarily weighted down in a depressive way, but definitely in a fresh, soothing, sultry, relaxing kind of way. It's one of those fragrances that you get much more intrinsic value out of it than the money that you spent on it. The next fig-oriented fragrance is a designer fragrance by Kenzo that plays with the fresh, aquatic side of this kind of greener side of fig. Fig needs a ridiculous amount of sunshine in order to flourish, and this fragrance translates that solar goodness into an aroma and thus becomes kind of a feel-good scent. It lightens the mood of any scenario of which it's a part. The fragrance I'm referring to is Kenzo Homme Eau de Toilette Intense. I don't think Kenzo Homme Intense gets the kind of appreciation that it deserves. Believe it or not, I've actually gotten compliments off this fragrance 2 times. Of course, I've worn it more than 2 times, but I remember these 2 times in particular because it pulled compliments. Kenzo Homme Intense opens with pink pepper and something called calypsone, which is like a water molecule aroma chemical. It's really kind of like a bright freshwater aquatic, as opposed to a sea-oriented aquatic. The heart consists of fig wood and vetiver. You've got sandalwood, akigala wood in the base of Intense, and it's just a very refreshing, fresh fig fragrance. And of course, fig wood is a little bit more, it's a richly textured but somewhat sedated side of the fig fragrance. It's got really good projection. It's almost like one of those eye-opening, wow, this is a lot better than I thought it would be. And of course, Kenzo, as a rule, is a house that is very inexpensive typically. Kenzo Homme Intense is very inexpensive. The last of our 7 fragrances that prove the allure of the Mediterranean and the allure of fig is very real. It is from Kieran of NYC. It is 10 a.m. Flirt. Because it's niche, of course, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's one of the most unique fig fragrances ever. If you haven't experienced it, if you haven't tried it out, definitely see if you can get a hold of a sample of it. It's one of those unusual fragrances that's very similar to, remember the first time that you tried Sean John 3 AM and you were like, wow, this kind of is a sexy, almost kind of skin scent. Not that it's a skin scent in the definition of skin scent, but it smells like skin, like sun-kissed skin. This is very similar, only add in the background a little bit of smoke, not wood smoke like cigarette smoke, like social smoke. It's appropriately named because it does have this whole flirtatious vibe going on with it. So it's the idea of this, you know, meeting someone new that you instantly just kind of like coalesce with, and you're attracted to them, they're attracted to you. There's all these ideas and thoughts of possibilities and new beginnings and fresh starts and all that entails, that just hits you all at once. And it's part of that chemistry, you know, where you get your adrenaline pumping, you've got your oxytocin being dumped into your system. They've actually encapsulated that in a fragrance, and that's 10 a.m. Flirt. This is definitely the sexy side of fig, where it works very well with florals and musks. Along with the fig, there's also gardenia, there's cashmere wood, sandalwood. 10 a.m. Flirt is more of an experience in a bottle, and I hope you get to experience it. I think you'll really enjoy it, and it will also kind of broaden your fig experience as well. While that may be a wrap on these 7 fig-oriented fragrances that prove the allure of the Mediterranean and fragrances that highlight the note of fig, I know that there are a lot more experiences out there for you to have, and these fragrances will help you have them. If you own any of these, let me know what your experience is like, or if you know of other fig-oriented fragrances out there that you really enjoy and enjoy wearing. Let us know what those are too in the comments below. Thanks so much for stopping by. As always, thank you so much for your support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.